You can absolutely conquer whatever it is you choose to confront. In this show, we talk PTG, we listen and believe, we support and empower.
Hey, that's what I always dreamed of, but I was nervous sometimes.
Yeah,
Each time I moved a little closer and a little closer
yeah,
and a little closer,
yeah.
and some told me, just take a leap of faith.
There you
Go
go.
ahead, let's jump.
Ready? Let's go. Leap of faith. There you go. Whoa.
Whether you have experienced domestic violence personally or not, someone you know has. Your circle of family, friends, acquaintances, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience domestic violence at some point in their life. Physical abuse is only one of the many forms of domestic violence. Survivors also report experience of verbal, emotional, spiritual, sexual, financial, electronic, and so much more. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It can leave you traumatized and devastated, mentally, emotionally, financially. You can find yourself homeless, jobless, helpless. The list can go on. There's blankets of insecurities, triggers, doubts, and other residual effects that become hurdles that impact our life as we do our best to move on. Many people associate butterflies with a sense of freedom. We've been taught along the way to focus on the transformation that takes place inside of the cocoon. I invite you to take a moment to conceptualize all the odds the caterpillar was up against and needed to defeat in order to get to a safe place, to build its cocoon, and actually experience the transformation. My name is A. Garcia. I am a mother and survivor of a double attempted homicide. Now, I'm dedicating my life to take yours to the next level by experiencing post-traumatic growth to begin a new chapter in your life. Let's get started on this journey together.
Garcia here. Thank you for tuning in to Confronting Domestic Violence, for you cannot conquer what you choose not to confront. Today, I have a beautiful guest with me, Daniela James, who is willing to share her story, her journey, and her triumph. For whatever we talk about today is not intended to ignite any triggers. So please, this is sensitive topic, sensitive information, and it is a wealth of information, wisdom, influence, empowerment, and so much more. Please welcome Daniela.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I'm able to help someone however I can with my story. And I always say inspire someone to also share the story and to break away from silence because that was one of my, I thought I didn't understand what abuse looked like. And it's after the aftermath of the breakup, I realized I was. Many of us may not experience it than traditional, what is considered, like say, the physical or, but it comes in different forms and it should not be neglected and it shouldn't be ignored. Everyone's experience should be respected and also be able to be heard.
Absolutely. And you're on point with what you said earlier. Your story can save a life. Your story can change somebody's life. Your story can help somebody with their current situation. And that's what this is all about, is encouraging and uplifting others that have been through it or are going through it currently. And like you
Hmm.
said, you didn't even realize while you were in it, it took you to leave it in order to really see how bad it was. So maybe we could start there. We talked a little bit behind stage before we went on to record, and we decided that we had to stop talking. We were not going to talk anymore because we needed to save everything for the show.
I know.
It's so easy to start going down different topics because
The
it's
rabbit
all
hole.
good. Yes. So thank you
So,
for that. And yeah, if you want to start maybe with what you actually had to go through today to prepare yourself for our
mhm.
conversation.
So funny enough, today is the actually anniversary of the breakup. This month actually is the anniversary of it. So it was very nostalgic in a way because I didn't, it's like time flew by. So it's 7 years this month when the words came out of his mouth like, "This just end this shit." Excuse my language. And I didn't see it coming because I was shocked. What are we ending? I thought what we were doing was normal, but at the end of the day, he had a secret that he was hiding and he didn't want me to know. The only way for the secret to be kept low was for me to walk away and just make it seem like nothing was there. But there was a secret, and I guess it would have just there was no way to hide it anymore. But he was trying
Hmm.
everything to keep it quiet, and that whatever I did it was amplified on a level that I didn't expect that because I'm thinking, oh, we're just having a normal fight. But it normally was not a normal fight. It was the undertone and the underbelly of it was the secret. And
Hmm.
that secret was brewing for months and for a couple years, as a matter of fact. But I didn't know. I was the naive, trusting partner, as you want to say it. So I would, and then I would never just assume. But and that's where the whole thing came unraveling as I moved out and everything, and then I found the truth. But this month is the actual month where it was like, oh, this is not working, let's go away. And it's so funny if we're having this interview this month.
Wow. Yeah, talk about
Yeah.
the symbolism
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, because September is always I always try to do something in September from since that time to always remind me of where I was, where I've been. And September a couple of years ago when I was in that book also, right? Behind Closed Doors. So every year, but the funny thing, this was the first year I wasn't intentional about it, and it actually just came and you
Mm.
reached out to me. And that's the
Hmm.
strangest thing. Like I will always do something to commemorate on that day, on that month, but I didn't. And now we having this interview now. So it's wow. Like, okay. Oh, that's interesting. I love that. I love that. I love the whole energy that it's bringing. I'm
Yeah.
intentional. I'm intentional. I have been intentional for since 2008, 2007. What am I saying? 2007. I've been intentional with every decision I make, and yeah.
Yeah,
So
that can you
mhm,
tell me how long you were in the relationship?
8 years.
8 years?
Yeah,
Wow, 8 years.
yeah. It
And
was.
there was a secret for that long that was stewing?
So he had a lot of secrets, and he mentioned it. I remember early in the relationship. Okay, let me back up. So I would take responsibility where I went to. 8 years. I was at that time. I was 25. So I was still not even sure who I was. I was 25, I was dating, and he came around and he was like this guy that was just different from the guys I dated. He speaks very well and represent very well. He had a little bit of money. He wasn't flaunting the money to me that I would, but he was financially capable of taking care of himself. And then I was dating these guys who wasn't. He was much older than I. That's also a factor there. So at that time, I was thinking, you know what, maybe that's what's right for me. And as we started the relationship, we started hanging out. And it wasn't an initial a relationship where, oh, let's make this official. It was more, let's just be friends and let's hang out. And he was planning to move to another country, but anyways, that didn't happen. And then as a woman and your naive self, I started falling for him. And I sort of made it like, okay, let's if we want to do this, let us do this. If you don't want to do this, let's go our separate ways. And he said, okay, sure, let's make it official. So we made it official at that time. And as we kept dating, there were little things I saw, but I was not the one to like just and then at the same time I was scared of losing him. So I was like, let me keep my mouth quiet. So the first secret was he was with a girl, and from what I can tell you today, I don't think they officially broke up. And he always mentioned these words: "Everyone have secrets," and he always would say that. And I'm thinking, but why would you have secrets? It's okay to be private, but not to have secrets.
Right.
So fast forward now, we're now 3 years into relationship, bought a house, have signed a car, business together, and this magical Saturday midday, this person knocked on the door. And this person came to the door and told me she's having an affair with my man.
And that's what she told you?
Yes, she's, oh, I'm here to see whoever he was. And I'm like, who are you? Like, and then she's, oh, I just want to say I know him and we've been dealing this and we've been doing. And I'm like, whoa. And what she was saying, she was giving, as the kids say on the block, the receipts. They were like, bang. But the funny thing is, I never thought I'm a spiritual person, but I don't believe in visions. But funny enough, not long before that, maybe like a month before that, I don't think I was sleeping. I swear I cannot tell you I was sleeping, but I had a vision with a woman walking up to my driveway, and I was living in this place where I had those horseshoe shape.
Oh, the
Um,
cul-de-sac?
yeah, and we lived on a cul-de-sac. And this woman walked up with a baby in her hands, with a child, a 2-year-old child walking. And it so turned out this woman walked up to tell me she is having whatever with him, and she was just giving me the information. And you would say that thing, if a girl come up to me, I'm gonna snatch her wig. And I'm like, let me tell you, that moment, I could not even think about wig, snatching, anything. I was just in like, how dare you put me in a position like this where now I have to stand there and a woman talking about you more. She knows more about you than I know. She knew the secret that I didn't know. And that thing crushed me. And that same day, he had to reveal that the girl he was apparently not with when we officially started had a baby 2 years ago.
So your vision was real.
My vision was on point, like on point. And I was like, at that point, I was in school and I just could not. I was so insecure of myself, and
You
I
were
didn't think
devastated. That
I
was
was
that came out of
devastated.
left field.
I came out so left. I didn't even know how to, like, how to start. Like, how can I yell at him? And I was I couldn't yell at this woman because she did nothing. And no, you had a baby 2 years ago. And the baby didn't come 2 years. This baby was in the belly for 9 months. So you're talking 2 years and 9 months. You knew of that child.
Yep.
And you never gave me the opportunity 2 years and 9 months ago to decide whether this is a relationship you wanted me to be in.
Yeah.
And that was what really hurt, because I went in with the information you presented to me, and you presented that you had kids before, and I was okay with the two that you had, but then I wasn't okay with the person that just had a baby, and that's relationship. And then you know what hurt me more? The fact, okay, I don't know my father. I've never met my father, and he knew that. And I always said I cannot be I want, so whoever, they need to have a relationship with their father. And then I just imagine myself as this 2 year old little girl not having a relationship with her dad, because we were in another city where this child was. And I knew for a fact he never visited that child because we
Oh
were
wow.
always together. Whenever we came to the city, we came together. This child never came to my space. He never talked about this mom ever. In once we started and everything, that's really, he never really mentioned her. So I was just like, how can you live with yourself every single day that you have someone out there? And and I'm like, wow. So then I felt bad for this poor child, because I'm like, I'm in the middle of this.
Because you guys were together 8 years and he's having another family.
2 years in that relationship, you had a child. And what annoyed me, that was
Yeah.
even the worst. I would visit his family and they all knew.
And nobody said anything.
No one. And I remember there was this one time I went back. I'm not from here, I'm from the Caribbean. And I went back and he was adamant, do not visit my mom, do not visit my mom. It at that moment everything downloaded. Why you didn't want me to go there? Because if I went there, the mom would say something to me. Oh, and probably in a casual conversation, not unknowingly that I don't know.
Yep.
So that was the big part of, and I stayed. I decided to forgive him, and with the condition that he has to have a relationship with her, with the child. I don't care about the mom, but no matter what, make sure the child is priority. And they continued the relationship. And he did start it. And he was open, and I knew what was going on whenever he need to visit, whatever.
So you were like co-parenting with him, this
I
other
never
child?
put no, yeah, no, he never put that on me. She visited a couple times and she spent a couple times with me when she was much older, but I was never like there to be, no, I didn't want that because I was too hurt.
Mhm.
And it reminded me of my dream was robbed away from me because I wanted to do that with him. He already had someone, he already had kids before, but at the end of the day, it was my space. And someone took that space, and then he didn't give me the choice to go and find it with somebody else. So that was one of the, that is for me because I don't know how to name that, but that was secret. That was really secretive. And then by doing that, you mentally manipulating me in ways that I never knew I was being manipulated, because there was things that was said about the mom, or things that was said to make me feel like I'm up there, but in reality, telling me that we're not ready for a child, we're not ready for this, we're not ready for that. But then,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah.
And I just want to say too that not only that emotional manipulation and the fronting about, oh, we're not ready because he already had this going on the other side,
Hmm.
but there was also financial manipulation in there too, because here he's grounding you with assets that you guys
Yes,
are getting together. So you have a house, you have this car, you said you started a business together.
yes,
So you're not completely dependent, but you're pretty deep into being
yeah,
connected for the long
yes.
haul.
For a long haul, we were deep, and it was like I consider him my best friend, and there was no ifs or buts about it. That was the future. And yeah, and during that time I was like, so now it's 14, almost 28 at that time. And then having this other relationship with this other woman on top of that. Now you had a new relationship with a woman that knew where we live, our home.
How was that? And you forgave him.
And I did. And I forgave him. And I was, I don't know what,
It's
would I
love,
do that?
honey. It's love.
I
We're
don't,
blinded
I
by
don't know if
love.
it's
We think it's
love.
okay.
I think it was, I think I was a little bit afraid of walking away. And I didn't want to give up the life.
That too.
But
You had
the life
everything.
was good. The life was good compared to my friends. At one point, I was, oh, you're like the Kardashian. You're like the real housewife of. So I didn't want to give up the life, and I'm competitive, and it came with that competitive nature. I'm not gonna let her win. I'm not gonna give her that power. But deep down, I'm dying inside.
And it wasn't her that you were giving power to.
That's the thing. I was giving power.
To him.
Yeah. Oh my God, I was a hot mess.
Girl, we all have been a hot mess at some point. That's why we're here.
Lord. Yeah, so that was the first big thing. And in between that there was between that there was emotional abuse. And they came across, he always had female friends, and they were very close to him.
Mm.
And I didn't understand the relationship. I remember one time he was never soft to me. It was never like a soft. Some people they're very soft, and then I remember one time I'm like, why are you so soft? towards this person, and it's, oh, I feel sorry for them. And I'm like, I would like you to feel sorry for me because if you feel sorry for me, I'll get a little bit of softness from that. Drive a little bit of softness to me, right? So though, and I think it had a lot to do with how we grew up. I could tell you, and this may be shocking to a lot of people, I could count on probably both hands how many times we said I love you to each other for that eight
In
years.
the duration of 8 years,
Yes.
why
It
do you think that
wasn't
is?
so I didn't have a dad, as I mentioned before, and I honestly didn't know what love's supposed to look like because my mom had me by myself, and then shortly after that, there was no figure in my life, and my mom was a single mom, and she was just grinding every single day, and she carried on, for lack of word, this masculine energy and this protective, taking care, controlling, running the world kind of woman. I admire her for that. She was a warrior in her own place. But at the same time, she never showed me, she never taught me how to be a wife. She never taught me how to seek the right person. She never taught me, and I don't think she didn't know for herself.
Mm.
And but then, and so in the time that I made the decision to choose him, it wasn't a decision. I made a decision just on my own, whatever. It wasn't even inhibition. It was just like, okay, he's cool. All right, let's do this. And things were just happening. And we were very compatible on business sides and stuff like that. And I think that came in first, but the emotional side was never satisfied. We could never get into a deep conversation without a outburst or a shutdown, like a complete shutdown.
Can I
And
ask some questions right there?
yeah,
Because these are lessons learned, right? We learn
yeah,
from these experiences. Looking back, do you think that those outbursts were to shut you down and not ask any further questions?
definitely. He was his defense mechanism. And you know what is so funny? You ask that question. He would say, "I feel like there's a hot iron on my face." Yes, I feel like there's a hot iron on my face. So when I knew that, I knew I need to draw back. And I'm like, "But your wall is so high,
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't break through."
So would you tell our listeners that that's a red flag right away? If you're asking
That's a
questions,
red flag. If
okay.
number one, if they cannot talk comfortably about the emotions without getting an aggression, and that's the big sign, the silence, just going to complete shutdown. This is not, you have to be aware this is either not a person for you, or this person needs to go find emotional support, help, therapy, whatever they need to go. Because talking about emotions, it is an intense conversation because you're letting someone in, but it shouldn't, especially with your person. I supposed to be your safe haven. And if I am not your safe haven in these two little walls that we in, then who is your safe haven? And I never felt like I was. And that's why I felt like the other women that was his friends, they had that access where I didn't have that access. And I don't know, maybe because maybe in some way I was too close, so he felt I would hurt more. I don't know. I'm just assuming. But no, let us talk about it. And if they can't talk about it, nah,
Now do
let
you
it be.
to keep the peace, right? Just keep the peace.
Yeah. And I was doing that. I was doing I used to say, let me not wake up the beast.
Eesh. So you were
Yeah.
walking on eggshells too.
All the time, all the time, all the time. I was nervous all the time to have a conversation. And that's where I felt like I was like this. I would have knots in my chest, in my stomach, in my mouth. I would foam up. Sometimes I'm going to do an exam. I was having like freaking anxiety. to have a conversation on something that was said. Let's say we're on our way home and he snapped at me for something. And I'm like, okay, when I get home, I want to talk to say, why did you do that? I couldn't. I could not. Like the life of me, I didn't have the strength, the courage to talk about it because I guess I wouldn't get the response I wanted. And the best way to deal about it is not to talk about it. And there was
I'm sorry. I wanted to ask, how can you look back and see where he took your voice from you or how he took your voice from you? No, I was asking if you could like identify how he took your voice, like how you got into
Ooh,
this fearful place of not even wanting to ask a question or address something that is so near and dear to your heart, which is your guys' relationship.
you were saying how was I able to how did I become voiceless? Right?
Yeah, are you able to identify where he took your voice and how you got to the place of being so fearful to address what was most important to you, which was your guys' relationship?
One of the then I think that was one of the biggest signs I should have realized that wasn't something besides the whole baby whatever thing was the way he deals with anger was
Yes.
the number one thing. And he did that silent treatment. And the silent treatment will last a week, 2 weeks. And I just learned to stay silent too. And I remember the first time it happened, I didn't realize it was a silent treatment. So I'm just talking like a normal day. And then I realized he was snapping, and I was like, okay, that's different. And then the second time, he just silent, and it was just like, hey, good morning, cold, bang. I'm like, okay. And then I noticed whenever we have a little fight or disagreement, that would be his next way of dealing with the agreement. So his remedy is silent treatment. And
Mm,
he needs to, until he feels like he's out of it, then he can come back and talk about, and he won't talk about what happened. He'll just talk about something else. Yeah. So we were just piling things underneath the rug for years. So by the time we were ready to unpack, the unpacking was way too far. Too many things there for me to get out. So that was number one. The silent treatment was the number one thing. And it wasn't a time of, okay, give me a couple hours, let me just go and be by myself. No, it was days and weeks. And with that, I just decided, you know what, I'm not gonna say anything and I'm gonna wait until he gets out of it. And when he gets out of it, and I just knew it became it became like a habitual. Why am I we're not gonna talk about it. He's gonna be in his mood, give him his moment.
yeah, so it's almost like it's a form of punishment to keep you away so he can do what he wants to do without ruffling the feathers or putting
Yes,
in more doubts. He's just, that's his free pass, right?
yes.
And then it also falls under the power and control wheel.
Yes, that was the power. He was, and then I was smaller. He's taller. He's older. When it comes to size and comparison, I could never match him.
Were you
So
afraid of him? Were you physically afraid of him?
at one point I was. At one point I was
Was
because
was
he did
sorry,
hit me one time. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna
and
ask. Was he ever physical with you?
and yes, and that was at that point I was like, wow, and I didn't because he always said he would never do that, and he did it. And it was right around the time I'm finding out about this woman on top of that.
So he's really he's pushing you to the limit to see how much you're willing to take.
And I just stood there and I was like, I'm telling you, 2 years in the relationship and I stayed. I really stayed. I stayed for, oh, things could get better, or this is people go through seasons. I don't know what I was thinking, girl.
Yeah, you were young. And that's what I wanted to ask you too. Do you think, looking back, do you think that age gap was it intentional? Do you think that he was pursuing you because he knew that you were younger and maybe a little naive, and therefore he was able to take more advantage of you and manipulate you easier? Because if you knew then what you knew today, you wouldn't deal with that.
Hell no.
Right.
I wouldn't even know. No, I honestly I do not know. I cannot answer that because he always dated people his age group. So that's a very like a long haul for me to say he did that. I cannot attest to that. I would say though, I would say personally, I don't think he likes someone that challenge him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And then I wasn't challenging on a lot of things I should have challenged.
Do you think that some of the questions you asked that were important to you and the relationship he took as challenging, or he made you feel like it was challenging, but it was just an honest emotional question?
So he was very smart. So depending on how I answer my question, he will filibuster it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And then he will say maybe next time, and he will correct my grammar and my sentence structure. And so that alone would give me anxiety because now I need to come with the question properly designed and put together like I'm writing an essay.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember one time he said, "Oh, I thought you were in college. You not like," and I'm like, "What is this?"
So you couldn't even be your authentic self.
A lot of the times, no. I love to laugh and I love laughing. Like you met me, and
Oh
I
yeah.
would say the crazy stuff, but it doesn't mean anything. And I would be like, "Oh, really?" And I had to represent some kind of way. There was this little, I had to like check all these boxes all the time. It was exhausting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So take us through, now that we've heard like the first 2 years and it was a total of 8. I mean, what got to the point through your journey that you realized that you can't do this anymore? Because earlier you said that it was him that called it off, but you had already
Yes.
knew about the secret so long ago.
Oh no, there was another one.
I okay.
No, that was the preview of the coming
Oh my
attraction.
gosh.
Oh God. Fast forward at the 8th year. There was you know what? It was a combination of a lot of things. And it started with that and also not protecting me. Because when I remember there was this incident, and I have to incorporate that to get the story out there to understand where the lack of protection came from him. He had a niece that came up on vacation, and she was just mean to me. My God, like just saying things that in very inappropriately. Like she would say, "Okay, can I get my uncle's credit card? It's his card." And at the time I wasn't working when she came, but I was helping with the business. So it's not like I was just home sitting down, not doing nothing. And that moment was his moment to be protecting me. Someone is talking negative about your girl, you're supposed to be protecting her, no matter who the hell the person is.
That's right.
No, that was not that. It was like basically he was in agreement with her, and it just seemed like she felt very brave and pompous to say what she wanted to say because she was being pumped by him.
Supported and backed. Yep.
Oh my gosh, yeah, she was supported. So she was saying, she was doing the most. And she was. And then there was this young lady that, okay. There was this young lady because she's young and I want to protect her
Yeah,
the
yeah.
most
We won't say any
possible way.
names.
Yeah. So there was this young lady that was mutual friends, and I wasn't taking anything of it. I'm thinking, okay, she's a young lady, whatever. And the trips to go back, she doesn't live here, she lives in another country. The trip to go there was becoming very frequent, but still not thinking because at the time we were building a house back there. So the whole thing is, oh, I have to go there to put this together. I'm like, okay, go do you, because it's all for us.
Trust you.
Then so that was 2016 when we broke up. So 2015, he went down the end of 2015 and he was gone for an entire month, December. And I'm January, that's my birthday. And then he was gone for the whole month. And I
Did you have
remember
I'm sorry. Did you have communication with him during that month?
it was communication and it wasn't communication because New Year's Eve night I called, we were talking and then the phone cut off and I didn't hear nothing. Then my birthday came and I'm calling, I'm on the phone like this. I'm like, oh, hi. And I'm like, what today is this? What date today is? And I'm like, oh, what? And I'm like, what do you mean what date today is? And he's, I don't know. I'm like, today's my birthday. Oh my God, I didn't. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And that's when I knew. And then another thing, my mom didn't tell me, but she told me that years later that he never visited them. He visited them one time to drop something I gave to them. And I was like, what? And I was so mad at my mom. Like, why didn't you say he never visited? Because that's a, like, how can you not visit my parents? And you're there for a month. How
Right.
does that make any? The island is small, okay? We're not in, it's 2 minutes drive from one place to the next. So those little things I knew that later. Anyways, he was adamant to go back down in February. He just came back up and he wanted to go back down in March or February. I can't remember exactly. I'm like, for what? Because we sold some vehicle, whatever. He wanted to go clear that up. I'm like, we're not going. You just came back up. So 2000, so that's the same year, 2016. Yeah, it was 2016 when we broke up. So I then went to Jamaica with my best friend, came back up, and that's when he said, let's just end this and whatever, this is not going anywhere. And I'm like, okay. But something in my spirit wasn't sitting right. It just
That's
wasn't
right.
sitting right. And I'm like, no, something is wrong. It just can't be random like that. Something is wrong. And I told you, I pray and I went to God and I kneel on my and I say, God, if this is the relationship for me, let me know. But I need to know it's red, like the color red. I cannot doubt is the color red. And funny enough, he got a text. And where he was sitting, I was able to see the code he entered in his phone.
Yep.
I never ever did anything like that. I know people say you go looking for something, you're gonna find some.
That's true.
But that's something needed to come to me
To you. That's right.
somehow.
Yep.
And then that's when I found out. And I saw in the text, he responded to the girl's mom and he said, I know you're surprised she's having my baby. And I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Another baby? And it's not mine with someone that I thought was your niece or whatever. No, she's young. She's younger than me.
Wait a second. That was not his niece?
And wasn't his niece, was friends of some friend, but it turned out apparently and they were like together for a couple of years while we here working on everything.
And he brings her to your house. And so this
If
girl knew
she
who
she
you
didn't come
were.
to my she didn't come to my house because she's back home, but she knew of me because she knew my sister. She knew everything.
But this is the one that was asking for the credit card, right?
No, that's his niece. That's another person. That was a
Okay.
random
Okay.
situation.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. And that was the end. I'm like, no, I'm like, and I come. So in the book, I wrote about where I was on the floor, bawling my eyes out. And because I held on to that information for a week without saying anything to anybody. And the funny thing is, when I found out that information that day, and I know this may be, people may think, how the hell you did that? But that moment I needed to, at that moment I knew we were breaking up. So I was just trying to gather. When you're breaking up, you don't just move the same day. So I was
Right.
trying to get myself together. And I remember when he said let's not, I didn't think he was serious. I was just thinking, oh my God. And then a week or so later, he's, oh, so when you're planning to move? And I'm like, what the hell? This guy's really serious. So at that time, I was still uneasy with the decision. I'm like, no, this is not true. This is not true. Something is wrong. And that's when I found out about this whole baby thing. But the day I found out about the baby thing, I booked an appointment at the bank because I wanted to open a bank account. Because at that point, I was walking away with $0.
That's what I was just gonna ask. Was it your name on the house?
No, He wasn't, because at the time when we signed, I had some credit issues and it was best to put his name. That was also strategic on his end
Yeah, because
because
you don't need to have good credit to be on a title or be on,
that
yeah,
was,
to have.
yeah. So that, and the same thing he did when he went back home and he buy the land and everything was in his name again. And I wasn't there to sign anything. So the day I found out was the day I was opening the bank account. I'm like, I need to just start saving. And I'm like, I calculate. So I'm leaving with nothing. So I went to this man trying to sign up this bank account and I just started bawling. This poor man was like, what is wrong?
Oh
And
my
I was
God.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going through a divorce. I was just crying. And he said, you want? I said, no, I need to sign this account today because I need to mark 8 years from today how much money I have in this account.
Yeah,
I needed
right.
something. I needed something to give me something. And so now past, so now that's a week now, and I'm just crying day and night. I'm not sleeping. I'm just going through the most, and he doesn't know because I was just hiding everything. I'm staying inside the bathroom and cry. I'm avoiding. Obviously, we're not together, so now I'm more in my own little cocoon. And then that day I was at work and I work as a CNA, you guys would say. And I was there with the client by himself and I just started bawling in that bathroom by myself. And I called because I couldn't face him and ask the question. Because I already don't have the courage on a normal day. How can I have the courage in this time? And I said, can you? I said, I know everything. And he's, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I know about the child. Is what child? And I'm like, I know about the baby. And he went silent. And to this day, he never said no, he never said yes. And all he said is, I would never apologize. And I was like, wow.
Saying wow. Like,
Like,
what?
wow, like, I would never apologize if you think I'm gonna, because before the first breakup, he went on his knees and begging me and and he said, I would never go on my knees and beg you. And I was like, wow. And I knew that was it. And throughout those years, I remember I never felt like the house was mine. I never felt like I was home. I never felt that was my home. I don't know what it was. I cannot tell you what it was, but I just never felt that connection. And it was a brand new home. It was a beautiful home. Canada is beautiful on a whole. And that home was in a beautiful area, beautiful neighborhood, very, as if people would say, bougie. But I just never felt it. And it ended, and then I was relieved. In the weirdest way, I was relieved, but it wasn't an easy relief. Like, oh my God, let's just start. No, it was hard. It was hard. That's when I went through the real depression.
Yeah, and I want to get to that in just one second because I want to tie some of the things up that you said. And let's talk about the house and the reason perhaps why you didn't feel like it was your home, even though you were young and even though you didn't have the credit. It does, again, that doesn't matter about your name not being on the title,
Hmm.
okay?
Hmm.
Credit has nothing to do with your name being attached. And
Hmm.
perhaps subconsciously you knew that. And subconsciously it was eating away at you because you know that it was in his name 100%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just your intuition. That's you
Yeah.
as a woman knowing and feeling that something is not right. And if you
Yeah.
live there and clean there and cook there and intimate with your man there, but you didn't feel like it was yours or
Yeah.
yours combined,
Yes.
yeah, that's your intuition right there. And I also think that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because it's just a thought, when you were at the bank to open up that account and look at what you did for the last 8 years, and you were saying that that you needed something, was that something a light that you were looking for to feel confident and okay and knowing that you're about to step in out of an 8-year relationship and into an unknown life?
Yeah, it was a confidence because I lost my confidence for a long time. I even lost my name. I remember there was days I never heard my name, like no one called me by my name. And what you're being called is so powerful.
Mm,
And I was always called his wife, and I was always the wife, but I was never Daniela.
mm,
And that little bit of me, I was in a different town. I didn't have any friends that I would say like close friends. And every day I'm among some men, and it was just me, as I say, putting things together, always coordinating, putting things together, working behind the scenes and running the operations when people don't see me, but I'm behind the scenes.
right.
And whenever I get to wherever he was, it was always, oh, that's your wife, oh, that's your wife. But it was never Daniela. And I didn't have a separate identity where I could have gone somewhere in the day and work, be myself, and then maybe in the evening or on the weekend I'm running this thing. And it reminded me, like, at the end of the day, I'm an independent person, and now I'm dependent on this person
Yeah.
because the business is in his name, the finances is in his name. A lot of the decisions I was operating under was him, it wasn't me. So when the niece made the comment about the credit card, girl, that was like I was like, she's okay. And I was like, wow. And then at that moment, I knew I do not have anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she came in, and I know this miss. She came in, she stayed a month. Saturday, she was on the airport. Monday morning, I found myself at a school. I was like, because I finished school already. I had a degree in some computer, some that did not work. But then now I was now helping, and then I was like, I need to get me. I need to get me. Just eager to get me. When that happened, I had no desire becoming a nurse or a CNA. Nothing. That was it. I was. My mom was like, "Oh, I'm like, I would never wear this uniform, never." But that moment,
You
it
needed
was
your
like I
independence.
needed me. I needed my name again. I needed my independence. And some people are okay being a kept wife, and I applaud women who can do this and just depend on someone to show up every single day. And I and probably has to do with me not having my dad and not having that foundation, a solid foundation. So as long as I cannot stand on my own solid, I cannot depend on someone. And
That's right.
I just felt like, just knowing, like, now we have this first incident of not trusting, and then that constant thing, and then not feeling protected. I knew I needed to protect myself. So I walked myself to that school. It was a private school. And I'm like, what course can I take that I will get a job today? No, I will, no, so I said, get a job tomorrow. And the guy's
Yeah.
like, have you ever heard of? And I'm like, what is that? He said the name of the course. I don't know what he said. I can tell you to this day, the information was just like glare. All I
Yeah.
heard, you get 4 months and 2 months training, and I didn't have the money either.
Hmm.
I'm signing up for the course. And then then I came, I'm like, oh, by the way, you need to give me $500 because I need to send. And he looked at me like, where are you working? I'm like, I'm going to school. And then I went to school and I signed up for the course. And
Good
I
for
finished
you.
6 months, and I did. And I was like, and then finally I was like, oh, okay, I have and that's how I get myself away from the business. And I said, you know what? I don't think I'm good to be helping you with the business anymore.
That's right.
And I need to, and then I started working on my own, and then, and not long, and it's so funny, a year later, exactly, we broke up.
Wow. So the niece is what came in and made you realize that you didn't have a financial backing for yourself. And
Yeah,
then a year later, after you finished school and you were already set up to be independent, work wise, professionally, then this happened. Look at the
yeah,
timing. It's a very sad and unfortunate. theme of events because this he has a pattern here. But can you
Hmm.
imagine if you ended up having his baby?
Oh my God. Every day I say that, I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God. And I think somewhere in my mind, I felt like I wasn't, I can tell you, I'm being honest, I didn't want to. I honestly didn't want to. I just, after knowing that the 2 year baby didn't get that, I could not see myself because I was always putting myself, okay, what if it was me? And the
mm-hmm.
fact that you did that and you slept comfortably every night and you were able to live this separate life and and there was no uneasiness, not once you felt to come and tell me, just, oh God, I have to tell you something. I'm so sorry I
Yeah,
didn't tell you before. Nothing in your spirit gave you that jolt, that some, and I'm like, wow. And then she was there before me.
right. And if you can deny your own child, you can deny anybody.
And that's how I felt. I'm like, oh my God, no. Somewhere in my spirit, I just felt like I'd rather say, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. That decision, I'm not mad about it because the moving on, I would not be able to move on just like that. I would probably still having to deal with whatever, you know.
Absolutely, 100%. And then travel the world for the baby to meet the siblings.
Oh
I mean,
God, help us.
I'm just saying. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay, so let's transition into when you actually left. Like you said after you left, because I talk about moving out is the physical sense of step one. Moving out is the physical thing, it's the action. Moving on is the mental, emotional, financial, spiritual, everything challenge, right?
Yes. Yes.
So take us take yeah, take us through whatever you feel comfortable taking us through as it
Yeah.
relates to that moving on chapter in your life.
Mentally, it was really bad because I had to move her from a 4 bedroom house to a shared home in a room. So that was the number one, the shock. And then I didn't have no furniture, nothing, but I had my clothes and all that. And I was used to having 1 bedroom just for my closet and all
Yeah.
that. And then, and then now shrinking down everything was really living out of the containers. And I'm under someone else's. I was the king, the queen of my castle, and now I was moving into someone who was renting out the room. And it's like the space in the kitchen was small, like everything was micro, right? So I had to adjust to that physical, the size of space. Number one, I had to adjust to, okay, I have to do less shopping. I have to buy a smaller plate. I have to, everything was that. But the mental space of coming home, although I never felt like I was home, he was my home. And then knowing every single day I wasn't getting a call from him anymore,
Mm,
not getting a call, waking up night after night. I would go to bed 4 in the morning, maybe, and I'm not sleeping.
yeah.
I remember there were nights after nights I would like shiver, like just physical shivering in the bed. I'm not crying, I'm not doing anything, but my body would just be going through like a shivering night after night after night. And where I was extremely cold. I'm talking Canada cold, the minus 35 degrees.
Yeah.
And and then I would go in the car and sit in the car and just let the windows down and just sit there and let the cold was my only comfort. And feel and let the cold get so cold that I don't feel anything because I just wanted the shivering to end. I wanted the pain to end, but as I would wake up again, and because I'm falling asleep, feeling cold, and
Yeah.
I'm getting, but then it's like my body will wake me up, like some way God will wake me up, and I'm like, oh, I'm alive again. I have to live this again another day. So that was the initiate thing is moving out from that place. When I moved out, I couldn't sleep for, I'm talking months. I couldn't sleep months. I wasn't sleeping. I would have to have something playing in my ear to just to have something playing. it don't have to make any sense, but just something plain.
Something to
The
distract you, to have your mind on.
all yeah, I and then again I got addicted to working.
Oh
I would
yeah.
work 7 days a week. I would pick up every shift that was available to numb my to just be busy, right?
Yeah.
I never got to the drinking. And that was one thing I never really did. I never got the drinking stuff. I was very I would never really like drinking a lot because I don't like the aftermath after
Yeah, exactly.
the storing up thing. I'm too cute for that.
Yeah,
So
hello. That's right.
so I didn't like this drinking thing. So I never did that. And I tried very hard not to become promiscuous. That's another thing because it was something that we didn't have in the relationship. We were not intimate for almost 2 years.
At the end,
Yeah, prior. Yeah.
let me ask you this. Were you learning how to cope with this mental breakdown and inability to sleep? Were you coping with this by yourself or did you seek outside help?
I was coping by myself because I didn't want nobody to know
Okay.
what I was going through.
Is that because you felt ashamed or embarrassed?
A combination of it because everyone we were like the ultimate relationship
Yeah.
and then
In the front, but nobody knew
in
what
the
was
front.
happening
Nobody
in the back.
knew. Yeah, nobody knew what was
Right.
happening in the back. And then when I started opening, and then now I had to like start to relive what happened and that constant come talking about it. That was a lot too. It was just a lot. And then I didn't want to be a bother to my friends. So that part where I was like, they would say, okay, good night, but no one knew what was happening in the night. And I remember the week when I found out about the whole baby thing again, I just sat in the car and I just keep saying, I'm just gonna drive until the car just stopped driving. No, I'd say I'm gonna drive and just let the wheel out. I'm just gonna release my hand and let the car just do its thing. And I remember there was a bridge. I kept envisioning I'll drive and get to that bridge. I'll drive to get to that bridge. And I was at a point where I was like, no, this is horrible. And I called a hotline. I called the hotline and then they refer me to someone and she said, and then I told her, if I don't come and see you today, I will do what I have to do. And she squeezed me in and I went in and she allowed me to just talk. Like, and I talk. And that was the one talk I had that was probably I needed. I didn't realize I needed it so much because I was crying too much. I was just crying. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I become constipated. I was just going through my body was just slowly breaking down, like in ways and mentally I wasn't, and I just couldn't understand what is all this, like,
Yeah, why is it happening? Why to you? Why is all this? How could somebody
yeah,
deceive
do it
you for so
again.
long and then you
No,
end up? I get it. I totally get it. And thank goodness. I really want to ask you when you found out about the second baby on the way.
no, the baby was already born.
Oh, the baby was already born. Okay, okay. Were you as devastated as you were when the first woman knocked on the door, or were you like, oh, hell to the no, it's a wrap. Like, you are still heartbroken, but were you as devastated, or were you just, I got to figure this out?
No, I was even more devastated because it's who the person he did it with. And when I really tracked back, it was 2, 3 years they were in the relationship before that came. And it hurt. It hurt because we were having open conversation about that person, like a normal conversation. It was never something hidden, but it was hidden right in front of my eye,
Yeah.
in front of my eye, in front of my face. It was right there. And I was like, how can I be so naive? And then why? Why? And you know what it is? At this point, there was no way I could hide it anymore. Because now, if we do this again, if it was an affair, then you could hide it. Okay, nobody needs to know. But now this is in, and family gonna know again.
Yeah. Yeah. So I could see where you would feel embarrassed. We've all been there too, because we feel, how could we be so stupid? How could it be in front of our face and we don't even
Mm-hmm.
see it? I think that
Mm-hmm.
so many of us go through that self-reflection and how we couldn't, or why we didn't, or how this was able to happen to us. And I want to ask you, like, looking back, do you feel like you totally could have reached out to your friends, that it was okay to talk to them, that you needed that community, that it could have been helpful to you? Because there's a lot of people today that are in it, or just coming out of it, or that are dealing with that transitional space, and they're
Mm-hmm.
going through the same thing. They're staying quiet.
I would say your friends, and you need to know the one friend that you could have that communication with. Do not share that with your whole group of friends. There's always this one friend in the whole group, you may have five, that knows how to just be a listener, who would also keep that to themselves, not to go spread it out. Sometimes, and that's what happened with me. I had that one friend I could have just share with, but I had my own issues to work on, right? So I didn't want to, but because she also was going through her own thing, but then she actually came through for me. She would call every single day and just make sure I was safe every single day. And she's, no, you coming back. You need to. She's, I don't care if you live with me for a little while, and I did. And she
Look at
opened up a
that.
home. A family opened up the house for me. We shared a room, and it was like my sister, like my, because we always consider each other, like we always see each other soulmate. But and they created that space for me. It was a couple months, but they give me that, they helped me in that transition, and I'm still grateful to them to this. Oh my God, this blessed day.
Oh yeah, that's what I was
So
gonna say. What a blessing.
yeah,
And that goes to show what can happen, what resources are available when you speak up.
yeah. Because
And
she's like, when she was saying, why you staying there? Just, you should be, she said, no, just move back now. You don't need
yeah,
to wait. But I needed to do it on my own time.
yep.
And then when I did it, it was the right time. I did it when the time was like, you know what, I'm done with this area. I'm done with this. And I remember one weekend I came down Toronto, and then I didn't want back. I didn't want to go back up. I didn't want to
Mm.
go back. And then I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna move. And I don't like moving because I moved a lot when I was a kid, and moving it wasn't like a happy thing for me. Moving that time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna move, and then I did came back, and I stayed with them for a couple months, and then shortly after I found my own place, but and then I came back and they found out, and then they were able to rent out an entire space for me again because they have a huge house, so I'm have my own quarters now, and I'm
Ah,
with them again.
yeah. How beautiful. I really want to commend you being able to level up your coping skills and find your own solace when you were going through that. That's why I asked you earlier, were you dealing with this on your own, or were you seeking outside help? Because I talk a lot also about, you may not know who you are during that time in your life when you're devastated and you're going through a transition that you have no idea what that looks like, or what the future even looks like. You may not know who you are during that time, but you know who you're not.
Ye-
And you definitely walked me through what you were doing, how you were doing it, and what decisions you needed to make to stay mentally focused on a healthy level. You dedicated yourself to work. You took on every shift that there was available. Instead of going into this micro space and feeling like you lost
Mhm,
everything and you were in this sardine
mhm,
can, you're
mhm,
outside, you're feeling this cold breeze like smack you in the face, wake you up, get your blood pumping and
mhm,
flowing. And it was
mhm,
like you went through all that. And there's something else that I say all the time. It's like my little cliche now. It's like, oh yeah, you could move
mhm.
a million times, but you live in your head. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's where you live.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's not a lot of people are able to get through things that devastating by themselves. And a lot of the times it's because we don't have the financial means to do it. And
Yeah.
or we're not in the mental or emotional space to feel like we're ready to let it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so dealing with it with them, it takes a very strong character. And
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you just want to take your hands off of the steering wheel, let the car take you wherever it's going to take you. That's a very profound statement. That's beyond feeling lost. That's feeling like we
Mm-hmm.
have no purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there too. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there too. And that's because when we're
Mm-hmm.
stripped away, your name was stripped away. Your identity
Yeah.
was stripped away. Your everything that you did to be who you were was stripped, and you were trying to figure out where to find you, how to find
Yeah.
you. And being able to intercept those negative beliefs about yourself, being able to intercept identifying yourself as a victim takes such willpower. And
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say that when you get to that space of realizing that you were victimized, that you had no control over this other person's behaviors, actions, statements, etc., that's when you reached over that hump from victim to victimized to I'm never
Mm-hmm.
dealing with this or putting myself like in this situation
Mm-hmm.
again. And then you're on
Mm-hmm.
that survivor mode, on that
Yeah.
journey. And
Yeah.
so I know today that you live the scrub life every day.
I do.
And so
I do. Oh my
yes,
God, I do.
and that I want you to share with our listeners who heard your story, who heard the devastation, the heartbreak. I almost wanted to cry on here with about it. I was gonna say with you, but you weren't crying. So if you
Yeah,
were, I probably
because
would have cried with you. My heart and my understanding go so
yeah.
far to your story because I dealt with a lot of that as well. And talk about what you're doing today. Talk about
Mm.
your post-traumatic growth is
Oh,
where
that's a
you
good
have
word.
yes, and it's
Yeah,
real.
I
It's a
love
real thing.
it.
Do the research, it's a real
Yeah,
thing. Is when you
it's a
are
real thing.
it is when you're stronger and wiser from your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Stronger and wiser and what you're doing with it. So before
Yeah.
you tell our audience what you're doing and where to find you,
Mm-hmm.
give us your personal like wounds to wisdom statement. Give us a wounds to wisdom statement that people can actually like reflect and marinate on. What would that be?
So my biggest thing is walk by faith, not by sight.
Ah,
And I live by that every single day. It's simple and it's something that when you're going through something, we focus on what's in front of us.
mm-hmm.
But you have to walk with the with the, I would say God, whoever you choose to believe in. But you need to have something that is greater than you, that can propel you and give you solace and give you hope, because this life is helpless sometimes, and you may not get the answer right away. And that's how God would love to tell us, oh, I'm not going to give you the answer, but you're going to have faith in me that I'm going to get you through this. And I remember when I wanted to end every part of me, I had to remind myself, you know what? That too is temporary. Like Eric and Thomas said, pain is temporary, right? And I had to those things I started walk by faith, not by sight, walk by faith, not by sight. I had that on my wall right there. And it was the first thing I saw, the last thing I saw. And I remember the first time I said those words, I am strong. My God, I was bawling my eyes out. Tears was pouring. I couldn't see my face. And I was saying that every single morning, every single day. It was just something, it became a mantra. I am strong. I am strong.
Yeah.
I am strong. I am strong. The ugly, snotty cries,
Yeah. Yeah.
puffy eyes.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying that every day. I am strong, until one day I became strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it started manifesting in all the things I was doing. And little step I took, I went to a 6 weeks program. It was like a self-development program. It was great for getting your business out of get your business. It was about beat procrastination, but I did not establish a business out of it, but I learned who I am, what am I destined for, what can I do? Am I an entrepreneur person? Can I beat the odds? And then a lot of it have the Bob Proctor theory and teachings and stuff like that. So I started living by manifestation a lot. And manifestation was something that became my thing. And
Yeah.
every year I would write in my diary, I would write what I wanted to do. I will put it in a book. There's things that I envision, it did not come through, but I learned it's okay. I learned
Right.
when something didn't work, it's okay. And I worked on my anger. Oh my God, I was angry.
Of
Jesus
course.
Christ. I was an angry person. I would snap. I had an attitude. I remember my mom is like, why are you so angry? And I realized I was angry because I was hurt. And those four, they say the 4 stages of death, anger was the last for me. Anger was the last. And then I had to just stop and say, well, something, I need to check myself. I remember I yelled at my really good friend. And thank God for the friend he is. He's still my friend today. And he did not give up on me. You know what I mean? So the one thing is don't give up on people that's been hurt because sometimes we're going through something and it's not you. We're just projecting. So be patient with us and be kind to us at the same time. And let us, sometimes that's the moment I needed. I needed to yell at this poor guy and then reflect on why I yelled at him. And
Mhm.
then my mom made a comment about it. And I'm like, no. And I started meditating. I started doing my morning walks in the morning. I love the water. So I do a lot of journaling by the water. And then one thing I started doing, I stopped talking about that person.
Yes.
Stop talking about a person. When
Hmm.
anybody bring it up, I would look at my time on my phone and I'm talking and I'm like, oh, 5 minutes. Okay, so this is 5 minutes. I gave 5 minutes to that person.
Yeah.
And like mentally, I was very intentional about that. I wouldn't say the name. I would not talk about it. And I just eventually it became a normal thing. And someone would bring it up and I'm like, oh, okay. And I just wash it away because I didn't want to engage in it because now we're going back to relive what happened and I'm talking and I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't care.
Yep.
All the well to the person, I'm fine. I'm in a good space right now. And then a lot of the another part I really want to talk about, healing, it does not happen until you start dating again.
Until you start dating again.
Yes, that's when you start realizing, am I really healed? Trust me, healing is not until you start dating again. And I had to learn that when I started dating again. A lot of remnants was coming up.
Yeah. And
Triggers, oh my God, triggers are just coming, bam. And I had to take a break from the person.
mm,
And I said, you know what, it's not fair to you.
yeah, if
It's
you
not
don't
fair
like
to
who
you.
you are, if
Like
somebody is bringing out who you don't like in yourself, yeah.
yes. And I said, you know what? I don't think I'm ready. You're a great guy. And I remember my friends, I was single for a long time. And everyone's, Daniela, I said, girl, I'm not going to hurt nobody's son. Okay. I am not ready
Mm,
yet. So I'm not going to put no one's son in any situation where now they have to now heal from me. No, I'm not doing that. So I had guys, I went on a date here and there, but nothing was really serious. And so those are the things I took. I took a course, I went to seminars, I invested a lot in books and webinars. I listened to self-healing podcasts and church, not as much because I have a little bias to church, but and then talking to my mom and having a real open conversation with my mom about choosing the right person. And my mom admitted that she didn't teach me
mm,
and she admitted that she fault that's where she fault me and I had to acknowledge that I would never be a daddy's little girl. That was a big one. And I'm also have issues from not having a dad. So I am the fatherless daughter that walks around very strong, and but then a lot of the times I'm still sad. And then just learning that, okay, that was the chapter that God gave me. That's the book I came with. It doesn't define me. This is not who I am. But I know now how to date. I know now how to be calm. I know now how to listen to when a man speak. And then I have a lot of guy friends. I will call them. I will say, I heard this. What do you think? Was I wrong? Was I not right? And they give me their own perspective, and I listen. And not as before, I was very stubborn, but I listen now. I listen and I admit when I'm wrong. And it's a journey. I'm still working on myself. I will always be perfectly imperfect.
Which I love. I saw that right away. I was like, oh yeah, that is
Yeah,
great.
but I'm working towards the journey. And as the whole scrub life, obviously, it came from a moment where I was not looking for it. Obviously, I was never a passionate to become a nurse, but in the middle of the war, great things would come after a storm, right? And I remember that lady when I was crying in that bathroom, and she said to me, I'm looking out at the window, turn around, there's a door behind me. And I had to remember there's a door. I need to walk through that door. And that's why I said, walk by faith, not by sight. I don't know what I was seeing when I walked through the door. So when I took that jump, it was a jump, and decided, okay, I'm going to become a CNA PSW. That's what we call it over here, a personal support worker, healthcare aide. It was not something I was, is, oh my God, this is going to be my life. But when I started it, I was like, oh my God, I love it. I love my job. I love helping the elderly. I love helping the vulnerable sector. I love giving back. It's just I'm at home when I'm with them. And as time went on, I remember my boss called me and said, what are you planning to do with your life? And I'm like, At the time, I was still thinking of going and become a real estate agent. I'm going to be the best real estate agent. Guess what? I failed that exam twice.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
for,
You're gonna be the best
for
nurse.
whatever reason, for whatever reason, I failed it twice. And then, that saying, they say if you could do something over and you're not tired of it, this is what you could do.
Yeah.
COVID hit, and we were working mad crazy hours. I was working 14 hours a day, back 7 days a week, no days off, and I wasn't tired. I was
Mm,
physically tired, but I wasn't mentally exhausted. I was just physically tired because your body is going through the
yeah.
motion. And I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to do nursing. And then I did what I needed to do, and I got into nursing school. And while I'm in school, I always know that I always wanted to do a podcast. I always wanted to talk about things and encourage people and just have information that people don't know about. And I keep telling my friends, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast. But I'm like, what am I going to do a podcast about? I didn't want to talk about abuse. I didn't want to talk about self development. I wanted to do something that I can do every day, seamless, easy, relatable, and still be me. And that's where I prayed about it. And I'm like, God, I need a name. And I remember I was with a client, and the client was telling me something to do with his food care. And he didn't have no one to do the food care. And I'm like, oh my God, this is information people don't know. Nobody knows that food care is necessary for diabetic people. And and I'm like, this is what I need to bring to the masses. I need to talk about this type of conversation. I need to talk about diabetes. I need to talk about high blood pressure in the Black community. I need to talk about it's okay for men to go to the doctor. And so that is and this is how Scrub Life is Real. That's the name of my podcast, was born. She's only 1 week old.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Last week, Thursday, was the first mini launch, and I'm going to be launching every week. I'm going to have a conversation. It's going to be all about either inspiring you, educating you, enlightening you on topics that you never knew about. And though I already had someone reach out to me and they saying, how can I become a nurse? I'm like, wow, the first little episode, the 1 minute,
Okay.
3 seconds.
Look at
Yeah. So
that.
yes,
Wow.
and it's so funny how everyone was just pouring a lot of love and say, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you," whatever. And seeing that person sending me that message, I'm like, okay, now I have a purpose nowadays. Now I have to live through this now. I cannot just backtrack now. So that's where I am now. I'm almost finishing school, and the podcast is gonna be my baby. That's the birth, and this is really the birth of me, my identity coming out of my shell, as you see the post
Dramatic
part
growth.
of my.
Yep.
I know.
PTG. Yes.
PTG, honey.
And this is 7 years that you've been working on this. 7 years in the
Yeah.
making. This
7 years
goes
in
to
the
show
making.
that nothing is overnight.
Oh God, no. And there's no age, there's no
No.
oh, and there's always room for everybody. Everybody think because I'm doing this and you cannot do this. No. There's space. We all have our own people, our own identity. There's space for every single one of us. And I have no clue where this is gonna go. Again, walk by faith, not by sight. And I'm leaving God to lead me to the right people. Every episode is gonna be basically, God, is that the right thing to write? Is that the right thing? I'm just a vessel that is being used for this mission. That's all. There's nothing else about it.
And it goes to show your first episode and you already reached a one person doing anything. It could be three listeners. As long as you reached, in my opinion, one person out of it, doesn't matter, three or 300. It's for that one person that needed to hear it, that's looking for guidance, that's looking for help, that's looking to ask you questions that you're willing to serve.
Yes. Was
That's
so amazing when I
incredible.
got the call. I was like, I saw this. I'm like, why is she calling me? And I thought it was a pocket call. And she's like, God, I just want to thank you for that post. I was thinking about, I was procrastinating what to do with my life. And I saw that post, and you just basically solidified my decision. And I was like, what?
Wow, look at
I was
that.
like, I know. And I was like, you know what? I'll walk you through the process. And I'm learning now how people get excited and then they start pulling back when they see the work they need to do.
Oh yeah, but I do want to point something out. If that woman that reached out to you asked you how to get started and you take her through that journey and she pursues that, think about how many people are now going to be serviced, are now going to be touched through that. Through
Yeah.
you helping one person, she's going to be in the same field servicing
Yeah.
other people
Oh
who
wow, I
need.
didn't even think about it that
Oh
way.
yeah,
Wow.
it's tenfold. That's what I'm saying. Think about how many lives are going to be touched from that one person reaching out to you.
I didn't think about it. That's wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So, what I would like to
Ah,
do, I want to wrap this up.
mm.
And I just want to tell our listeners that both Daniela and I are co authors in a book. That's where we met. It's behind closed
Yeah.
doors. You can survive domestic violence. I survived domestic violence, and you can too. There's
Let
now
me
two
show them the
editions out
book.
there. Yep, there we go. Yeah. And there's two editions out there, and we didn't do it for any monetary reasons. We didn't do it for
No.
anything other than getting our story out there and helping other people really see our journey and learn of our experiences, and hopefully prevent anybody from going down or as deep as we did, because we didn't have anybody to tell us differently.
Yeah.
And on that note, I would ask you, and I'll do the same thing, rattle off like three things that somebody should do when they're dating to make sure that it's safe and balanced and okay for them. What are three things they should investigate or ask?
Wow, listen. Do not do all the talking. Women, we love to talk. Listen to what the person is saying. Don't interrupt when they're talking their story, how the relationship ended, where they went wrong. Listen, this is the men tell you the truth. They're very black and white. We and don't create a story in your head what happened to them past. No, if they told you that's what it is, when somebody show you who they are, that's who they are. If they don't check up on you regularly, that's a red flag. And if they're asking you for money early in the relationship,
Hello, right?
yeah. But listen, that was the number one thing for me. Listen attentively to what they're saying and just don't interrupt. Let it be the one telling you the backstory. You take it all in between and read in between the line. My friend always say, I listen to what's not being said. I'm very
Mm,
good like that. I always listen. I can hear something, but it's also, what do you do? Oh, I go up the street and I walk down the street. Oh, so you're not working.
Hello. Right. Okay, so I'll say three things that are different than yours, even though one of them was the same. So the three things that I would say is get to see who they hang out with, get to know their friends,
Mm,
because who they hang
yeah.
with is who they are, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Get to see or know their coworkers because,
Ooh,
yeah, because that's a whole nother realm or character as well.
wow.
And hang out with the family.
If
Hang
they
out with
let
the
you.
family. If yeah, because if they don't let you, then you already know what's up off the bat.
You know what I did with this guy? I introduced him to my married friend after the first week. I was like, if you're that serious, you're gonna meet my married friends.
Yeah,
And I did not play. He showed up.
there you go.
I was like, I was like, okay. I'm like, we're gonna have dinner with these friends of mine, and I needed to see if you're that serious. And he did show up. But then I had to take a step back. It was a lot of things I need to work on. We're still friends, but to this day, still say you one of the rare girls. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I want to ask you one last question, and
Hmm.
it's your opinion, really. Would
Hmm.
you agree that maybe asking some of the harder, more intense and uncomfortable slash challenging questions, do you think it's important to ask that sooner than later?
No, sooner than later. And you know what? When in the early time, it's actually easier to ask the questions because you don't know the person. There's nothing to lose.
And you
So
can
it's
see their
like
response or reaction, right?
exactly.
Is it
Yeah.
irritating? Are they afraid? What's
Yeah.
because those are the important questions that are going to come out later anyways. But based on your
Exactly.
story, and it became this a huge
Yeah.
explosion that you just shut down and didn't ask anything, but they were so
Yeah.
important to your life.
Yeah. And that's why Oprah say when somebody show you who they are, believe them. And I learned that during dating, when someone say they're gonna call you and they don't call you back, and that
Yeah.
becomes a pattern, that's who they are. Don't try to create, oh, they were busy and they were no, nobody's that busy in the world. We have access too quick enough to say to text, I'm good, call you back just now. We
Yes.
could FaceTime, we have too much access
Yeah,
to
it's
say that
true.
you're that busy. And I would say, and when you ask the questions, don't think asking the question is going to push the person away. If that pushes the person away, he's not your person.
That's right. That's right.
And it's okay. It's not your person.
Yep. That's okay.
That's
Next.
okay. Next. That's my motto. I'm like, next.
Hello.
Hello, next. But then the way you have to ask the questions, make fun of it and don't judge. Person says something, just listen and say, oh, wow, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. There's a way of and getting them encouraged to talk as opposed to, so you telling me you did this with your baby? Oh my God, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
encourage, just get the person to talk and get them to release and relieve and listen and let it calm. Let it create it in a calm environment. Like my friend said to me, you want this professional love. I'm like, what does that mean? Is it because you want to do this professional conversation? You want to
Yeah.
talk? I'm like, yeah, I don't like yelling. And I want to have a normal conversation with you. So let's talk. And if it doesn't go that way, it's okay. Like I had an argument with a guy who was saying he likes a woman that cooks. I'm jokingly said, I'm not the girl for you. And he went off on me. So you're not going to cook. And I'm like, I don't like cooking. And he said, so you don't cook? And I said, problem with you, you have poor listening skills. And he said, I said, I never said I don't cook. I said, I don't like to. That's two different things.
Yep.
He just stopped. I never said I don't cook. I just said I don't like to. What
Right.
is wrong with saying I don't like to do it?
That's right. Back to the listening skills. Oh my goodness.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you obviously don't listen. And he's what? I said, because I said I don't like cooking. And he's, what you say? I said, never said I don't cook. I said I don't like to. And I'm working very hard that I would have a chef that wants to come in my house and cook. or you could be the chef, whichever.
That's right. Oh my gosh. That is so true.
Oh
Yes.
God.
I think
But
I
have
think we should
fun.
yeah, I think we should have another conversation because you know what? We can talk about
Hmm.
domestic violence at the workplace, and I think in your field, you
Hmm.
see quite a bit. And
Oh, sure. I can bring you on if you like.
yeah, yeah,
I'll bring you.
either
Yeah,
way. Yeah,
I
we could
could
do a
bring you
round two
on.
here or
Yeah,
I'll go there. That's
yeah,
totally fine for
yeah.
sure.
That'd be
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I could bring you on because that's a topic I wanted to talk about, especially about surrounding and you that in the aging population.
yeah.
Domestic violence is very real.
It is. And
It
October is
is.
Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Let's get the
Let's
awareness
make.
out. Let's do some things.
Okay.
And,
Cool. I'd be more than happy to do that.
yeah, all right. We'll talk offline. To wrap this up,
Mhm.
Confronting Domestic Violence is a nonprofit organization. We help real-time victims with real-time resources. If you have a safe place to go, but not the means to get there, we help you get there. So we're looking to fill the gaps, really help families with a second chance, especially children, to have a solid, safe future. They deserve it. And nobody should suffer alone. We're here together to empower and to be a community of supporters.
It was a
Yeah.
pleasure. Oh my God. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to share my story. I never went in that deep. Some of my friends heard the story before, but I never really publicly went out that deep. So this is my first, I'm breaking through.
Thank you
And
for that privilege of sharing with me.
yeah, yeah, thank you so much for reaching out to me. And I hope that I could encourage someone to take the step that's necessary for them. It's scary, but just to let you know, you're not alone. And trust me when I tell you, there is the light after in the end of the tunnel.
Yes, use your
Trust me.
voice.
Trust me.
Talk to
And it looks,
somebody.
trust me, and it looks really good when you could wake up one day and you don't have your heart fluttering and you don't have the scare, you don't have the shakes, and you could eat and you could stand up in your kitchen and just enjoy life.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's real. It does exist. When you're
Yeah.
going, you won't die through it. It's just, it feels like you're dying, but you're not
Yeah.
gonna die. Feels
That's
like you're
right.
dying, but you're gonna be okay. Trust me. I
Yeah.
was, I need to, and don't expect it to happen today. Oh my God, I'm gonna feel better like this. No, just be aware that you're gonna walk through some kinks. You're gonna discover who you are. You're gonna pick up pieces that you never knew existed. You're gonna start discovering the real you. And it's such a beautiful thing when you could discover that side of you that was either hidden, was pushed down, because some relationship has a way of just telling you you're not good enough. And they would every single day you've been reliving that. And then when you're starting to see, wow, I went to work and this person say I'm amazing at this, and you're like, oh, okay.
Mm.
And people meet you on the street and say, oh my God, you're beautiful. And you're
And you
like,
are beautiful, Daniela.
yeah, and you're turning around looking at yourself, really? Or I know people used to say you're so funny, and I'm like, Me funny? I was like, I didn't know I was funny. Little quirks about you that was an annoyance to someone is being celebrated by somebody else.
Oh my gosh, yes. One person's trash is another person's treasure. Hello.
Trust
And
me.
something you
So,
said earlier, which I totally agree with and want to remind our listeners, hey, there's a lot of self-help, free self-help things out
mhm,
there. Find a podcast, tune into a Les Brown YouTube long dissertation,
mhm,
get some
mhm,
Amazon or Kindle or whatever books,
mhm,
and get those
mhm.
earbuds in your ear and really
Yes.
listen to what's being said on
Yeah.
that positive level. Because listen, when you're at rock bottom, there's nowhere else to go but
But
that's right. Thank you,
every day.
Daniela. Thank you.
Bye.
Confronting Domestic Violence is a 501c3. All contributions, volunteers, and sponsorships are welcomed. It takes a community to make a difference. Nobody should suffer alone. Please scan the QR code.